Hi everyone, welcome to your history lesson. Today we're going to be learning about an emperor, a Roman emperor called Emperor Hadrian. And we're also going to be learning about something he did which some of you might have heard of or maybe even seen, which is Hadrian's Wall. So our learning objective, our LO, is to write a fact file about Emperor Hadrian. We are going to aim to describe who Emperor Hadrian was, say when, how and why he built a wall, and explain the features of the wall. To be successful, you are going to be able to tell me or anyone who asks you who the Emperor Hadrian was, and when, how and why he built the wall. You are also going to be able to complete a fact file about Emperor Hadrian to be able to be successful. And our fact file is going to look like this. So as you can see at the very top, it's going to have researcher. You might actually want to either draw your own version of this or to print this off if you have a printer, and you can work through it as we go through the lesson. So researcher, that's where you put your name. Person's name is going to be Emperor Hadrian. And the other details you can fill in as we go along, and the person's portrait you might want to go to the beginning of this presentation again so you can have a look at Emperor Hadrian and maybe do a little bit of a sketch from that picture we have on this page. You might also want to Google image search Emperor Hadrian to see if you can see any pictures that you might want to copy. I will warn you though, a lot of them are probably going to be statues which might be quite difficult to copy. So maybe type in Emperor Hadrian drawing, that might be a bit more helpful if you're looking for something to copy. Anyway, so yes, our end aim is to be able to fill out this sheet. The Picts. Scotland was known as Caledonia during the Roman era, and many Caledonian tribes fought battles against the Romans who tried to take their land. The Picts. In AD 84, the different tribes all banded together to form a group that the Romans called the Picts, after the Romans defeated them in a big battle. However, the Romans did not go on to take Scotland, as the Roman army was called back home to deal with other issues. This meant that Scotland never became a part of the empire. So you might remember a while ago when we were learning about the Celts, we actually saw that the Celts were in touch with the Romans in different times over history, and the Celts in Scotland were actually able to stay there without being ruled over by the Romans, and these Celts were called by the Romans the Picts, the Scottish Celts. According to the Romans, the Picts were a feisty, formidable force who kept raiding their territory in Britain. The Romans wanted a way to separate their land from the Picts. Hadrian's Wall. The solution for dealing with the frequent attacks from the Picts came in the form of a great wall. The Roman Emperor Hadrian is best known for building this wall across northern Britain, which helped the Romans defend their occupied land. The wall also meant that the Romans could control who was entering and leaving Roman territory, and charge taxes to those who wanted to come in. Building the wall. The Romans began building the wall in AD 122, and it took around 6 years to build. The wall was built by 3 Roman legions, that's like 3 Roman armies, 15,000 men, using mostly stone. It was 117.5 kilometres long, or 80 Roman miles, up to 6 metres high. So if you think about that, I'm just under 2 metres high, so that's 3 times the amount of height I am, so it's quite high, and 3 metres wide. So that again, that's longer than I would be if I was lying down on the floor. This meant that 2 Roman soldiers could perform sentry duties side by side. So that means when they're guarding it, they could stand side by side and there'd be plenty of room for them both. Along the wall. The wall ran from Bowness-on-Salway on the west coast to Wallsend on the east coast. It passed through Carlisle, Gilsland, Colforth and Corbridge, among many other places. Right, so this is an optional thing. If you want to, you can work to find some of these places on your map. Can you find out names of some other places the wall passed through? What countries are they in? What else can you find out about them? Sorry, not what countries, we know what country. What counties are they in? And what else can you find out about them? Label your own map to show Hadrian's Wall and some places it ran through. So that's an optional extra. If you want to do it, you can, but don't worry too much because we're going to focus on our fact file. Not just a wall. There was a mile castle containing 20 soldiers every Roman mile, so every 1.5 kilometres. There was a turret guarded by soldiers built every 500 metres. Major forts were built along the wall every 8 kilometres. These forts could accommodate between 500 to 1,000 Roman soldiers. So there were lots of places where this wall was being guarded. Life at the wall. Since thousands of soldiers were stationed along the wall, provision had to be made in order for them to be able to live their lives. Inside the forts were barricades for the soldiers. Barracks. So barracks means somewhere to sleep and live for the soldiers. A large house for the commander and his family. A grain store, toilets, and sometimes a hospital. There would also be a bathhouse just outside the forts so soldiers could keep clean. Over time, villages and communities developed around the forts. These settlements would contain houses, shops, temples and taverns. Tavern is an old-fashioned word for a pub. They were probably where the soldiers' wives and families lived. Life at the wall. One of the forts was called House Steets. It had a hospital, granary, barracks, workshop and toilets, and this is a picture of the remains of it now. Life at the wall. A Roman road called a Stangate was built to supply the soldiers based at Hadrian's Wall. Grain was kept dry in a store by use of a Hypercast. So do we remember what we spoke about Hypercast with? We spoke about them ages ago when we were doing about Roman baths. Similar to the systems in Roman baths. So that's when they make sure everything's warm by having an underground heating system. So as you can see here, they've got some turrets, columns holding up the floor, and then they've got a fire which makes sure that everything under here stays hot. So the grain is kept dry through the similar system as you would keep the water warm in a Roman bath. Some extra facts. So these facts will help you to fill out your fact file. Emperor Hadrian was born in 76 CE or AD and died in 138 CE or AD. So common era, remember we use that if we're talking from a non-Christian standpoint, but it means the same as AD. So we know it's not correct, but we can actually remember that as being after death, but actually it really means something in Latin, and it's from the moment where Jesus was actually born rather than when he died. He had the title of emperor from 117 to 138 CE or AD. He is known as the third of the 5 good emperors who ruled justly, along with Nerva, Trajan, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. He is best known for building projects throughout the Roman Empire, especially Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain. He also had the Pantheon rebuilt after it was destroyed in a fire. He had a great interest in architecture, so that's like what buildings look like, and contributed to the plans of many of his buildings. Hadrian would sleep and eat amongst the common soldiers. Hadrian was in love with Antonius, who drowned in the Nile, so Antonius was actually a young man. In 130 CE, he then founded a city in Egypt in his memory and called it Antinopolis. Although he is remembered as a good emperor, he didn't always do the right thing. He ordered the public execution of Jewish scholars and banned Judaism. It is believed that he died from a heart attack at the age of 62. So if you need a little bit extra time to copy down some of those facts maybe onto your fact file, you can pause the video here. And before we finish our lesson, can you think, is there anything else you can remember? Anything else? You can also do your own research, of course, if you want to do a little bit more and find out more about Emperor Hadrian, because he's a very interesting man. And remember, you need to fill this sheet out beautifully. So researcher, that's your name. Person's name is Emperor Hadrian. We know when he lived from and to. I've given you those facts in the Some Extra Facts page. He's most known for his building projects, but I want you to do a little bit more detail in that. What building projects are these? Was he interested in these building projects? You need to do his portraits. You need to draw him up here and colour him in. I don't want to see this done in pen. I want to see this done in pencil, please. And then some 5 extra facts down here. So that shouldn't take you too long, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed reading about how a Roman emperor has actually impacted quite a lot on what Britain looked like at the time. And you can still actually see parts of Hadrian Wall, so that's really cool. And shows that, you know, this history did really happen. And I will be talking to you later on in the week, where we're going to be probably doing one of our last history lessons on the Romans.